Well, we still have some heat and humidity to get through over the next couple of days, and we also maybe have some thunderstorms and heavy rain that we might have to deal with as we transition over to a beautiful air mass for Friday and into the later Friday and into the weekend. Some severe weather up in the northern plains tonight, and we will, of course, cover it all like we do here 5 days a week on most weeks on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Shop our referral link to Amazon. It's pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this podcast. And all you do is search for your stuff and shop. And Amazon throws us a little bit of coin for sending you there. The point is, it doesn't cost you a dime. The only effort you have to make is to move your little mouse onto that link and click, and then the rest of it is all taken care of. So the referral link, because Joe Weather Show podcast with no commercial interruption. And if you're looking for a weather station, look no further than Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is on the descriptor to this podcast on YouTube underneath the title of tonight's program. Use the coupon code SUMMER 2025 because if you do, you will get
a big 10% off.
Nobody says 10% off better than Joe Rea.
I wish we get 10% off of the expected high temperatures for tomorrow.
Well, unfortunately, that is not going to happen.
No, and in fact, if anything, I think that here in the lower Hudson Valley, especially across southern Westchester, I think there's a fair to midland chance that there may be a couple of places that could hit 100 degrees tomorrow, Joe.
Well, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, it's very hot and very humid air. You're going to have a west wind. Even at coastal locations, a sea breeze is going to be a really tough sell unless you're literally standing in the water. So, I mean, what's going to stop it? I don't know how low it's going to get tonight. We'll have to see what the launching pad is for tomorrow. And I guess the only other variable is if the skies aren't hazy from wildfire smoke.
Yeah, and let's also not forget that we did have a touch of smoke in our sky over the weekend, and I'm not really sure. We're going to get into a northwesterly flow in the upper atmosphere later on in the week, and I'm not sure whether or not yet that might actually bring down more smoke into our area, even though the temperatures will be cooler and the dew points. I see Tom Contino on the chat board asking what I think dew point temperatures are going to be like. I think, Tom, from Thursday night through the end of the day, Sunday, I think dew points are going to be generally in the mid to upper 50s. So that'll make for a very comfortable weather pattern for us. Temperatures are going to be probably close to the 80-degree mark. Pretty typical for this time of the year, temperature-wise, or maybe low 80s. So I think we're on our way towards some great weather, but unfortunately, we're going to have to go through some, well, it's going to be a bit problematic. I think, Joe, this weather front that's going to usher in all of this drier and cooler air is going to be slow-moving and could leave us with maybe some significant rainfall here Wednesday night into a good part of Thursday.
You mean Thursday night into Friday?
Well, I think Wednesday we're going to see showers. I think Thursday, much of the day, will, especially later Thursday, there'll be more wet weather, and there may still be a leftover shower or two lingering on Friday. I think the heaviest is going to come probably, again, later Thursday and Thursday night.
Right,
and we could be looking at, what do you think, an inch, maybe a couple of inches in the worst case scenarios?
Well, I'm looking at the European has been pretty much on top of this. The European has a stripe of 4-inch plus rains from northeast Pennsylvania. In fact, I'll show it up on the map right now. I'll show it on the air. Now, some of this is cumulative, so I just want to go back and see Let me see if I could. I don't think I could do a 24-hour on the European. Uh, this is actually shifted a little bit further to the north. Oh, they do have 24-hour accumulated precip. So this is from from Thursday morning to Friday morning. Let's go to Friday afternoon. So from 1 p.m. Thursday to 1 p.m. Friday, this grayish purple that's here, we're talking 4-inch, 5-inch amounts. Northeast Pennsylvania, the Hudson Valley north of 84 into Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Vermont. Now, this is shifted northward from previous runs, so we'll have to see if that's going to indeed be the case. It's a lot lower when you get down to Long Island and New Jersey and Point South, only showing a quarter to a half an inch there. So a lot's going to depend on where the front sets up. As it approaches, it's going to slow down. And are we going to have a wave that's going to move, basically right along the New Jersey coast to Long Island, or is it going to move just inland of the coast? But somebody's going to get clobbered with some big rains here, with this for Thursday, later Thursday into first part of Friday.
I would agree. And as we have often said, especially in a very humid air mass, whatever is being indicated for QPF could be double or even triple. As this, whatever the precipitable water content happens to be, we could very well see in a few places some very heavy amounts. 4 inches is not off the table. It certainly can happen. We've seen it happen in previous summers, and it could very well happen again in the coming days ahead.
Yeah, see, the GFS has a flatter look to this. It's got a wave that's much further south. I mean, we do get into some rain and maybe some heavier rains during the day, Thursday and Thursday night, but it's mostly gone by Friday morning, whereas the European takes about half the day in order to get it out of the way. But I'm going to just continue to, but my view has been that the European model has been outperforming the GFS in a big way. So it's going to be hard for me at this stage to want to go away from that. But we'll see what the models do over the next couple of days with respect to how this is going to set up for Thursday. Meanwhile, we've got heat advisories up for tomorrow, and they'll be up for Wednesday. We're looking at heat advisories that cover a large portion of just about all of the Ohio and Tennessee Valley, the southeast down into Florida, uh, west across the Gulf states into Oklahoma and northeast Texas, northward up into Iowa and Nebraska. We have severe thunderstorm watches and some severe weather that's moving across South Dakota right now and heading for Minnesota. SPC's got a moderate risk for severe thunderstorms, which you don't see too often. And we also have a severe thunderstorm watch up in central Montana. Flash flood watches to the west of that. Flash flood watches covering a good chunk of New Mexico. And on the satellite loop, there's some storms that are right now moving across Ohio, heading toward western Pennsylvania. They're probably reaching their peak right now, Joe. You can see there's a lot of lightning strikes there, and also in southern Indiana, where we're seeing an east-west line of storms moving southward. But the Northeast is quiet, and I think most of the stuff to the west is going to die out. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. Tomorrow's probably going to see very little in the way of any shower or thunderstorm activity developing.
Yeah, I think again it's going to be dry and it's going to be hot. The record high temperature, for example, at Westchester Airport for tomorrow is 92, and I think that that's going to go bye very quickly by midday tomorrow. As I said, I think here in the lower Hudson Valley, 96 to 100. And if you're looking for any kind of relief from a thunderstorm, don't hold your breath because it doesn't look like it's going to be happening tomorrow. The first chance I could see of any kind of shower activity here might come our way after sunset on Wednesday, late Wednesday or Wednesday night. And then again, Joe, as you just mentioned, depending upon the exact positioning of the weather front, the cold front, working its way southbound through New York State and northeast Pennsylvania, and whether or not a wave of low pressure develops on it, and exactly where does the wave develop, and where will the axis of heaviest precipitation associated with the front and the wave set up, again, could mean for some, especially later Thursday night, and into the early part of Friday, amounts of at least an inch or two, and maybe even more than that. Again, wouldn't be surprised if, with all the humidity that's around, we could find ourselves with 3 or 4 inches in some spots. So let's keep an eye on it. But that's the price we're going to have to pay for what looks to be some great weather for this upcoming weekend, the first weekend of August. And it looks like it's going to be somewhat, well, I won't say coolish. Again, 80 or low 80s is a pretty good uh, warm stretch, but in terms of dew point temperatures, and I saw Rich Rothmansky mentioning that he thought or felt that dew points would be in the upper 40s this weekend. I'm not quite sure if it's going to get that low, Rich. I mean, I respect your opinion. I think if we get down to the mid 50s dew point wise this weekend, I think that'll be pretty darn good. I could certainly cross my fingers and hope it gets lower than that. I think 40s for dew points. I'm not sure if we'll be able to manage that, but we'll see. One thing I will promise, Joe, is that this weekend will be very comfortable, very lovely, very nice. And Sunday is looking more and more to me like one of the top days, not just of the week, but maybe of the summertime. It really looks great.
Nice. Got some scattered storms in the southeast. There were actually some thunderstorms that formed in my east and passed in my east and south because they're moving from north to south. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on till you get to the Dakotas, where we've got a lot of lightning strikes going on there and extending up into Minnesota. And then you see this other band that's forming across Montana, and you're getting some moisture, some monsoonal moisture heading up from Mexico on up into New Mexico. And you check out the radar tonight, you can see what's happening here. There are a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings in eastern Ohio. And also, you see this east-west line in southern Indiana. It's now moved into part of it has moved into Kentucky with a renegade flash flood warning on the Indiana side, and also a severe thunderstorm warning in a western, southwestern county in Indiana. Not a whole lot in the southeast, not a whole lot in Florida. And then we go up into the northern plains, and you see these very strong storms with severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings that have been issued in areas in South Dakota down to the Nebraska state line, and then also crossing over into Minnesota and heading eastward. It looks like some other more big storms heading for Minneapolis, and then you got this complex with some severe storms in central Montana. Storm Prediction Center has a moderate risk in eastern South Dakota to northern Iowa and southeast Minnesota with these storms going through tonight. There's a slight risk also in central Montana. Otherwise, the Northeast is quiet. Texas up into Kansas is quiet, and much of the Southwest and West is quiet, save for some general thunderstorm risk in parts of Oregon, Idaho, Northern California, and in Nevada. Now, tomorrow, we have a slight risk running from southern Montana, southernmost Montana, and eastern Wyoming eastward across Nebraska into Iowa. Tornado risk is less than 2%, so the primary risk here is going to be wind and also possibly some hail in Montana. It's elevated to about 15%. And then on day 3, which is Wednesday into Thursday morning, we have a marginal risk for isolated severe thunderstorms from northeastern Maryland, northeastward through eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, the Hudson Valley, all the way up to north of I-90, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, southern half of Vermont, and the southern half of New Hampshire. I think we could throw in the chance there could be an isolated severe thunderstorm in a mix of scattered thunderstorms for late Wednesday. I don't have an issue with that.
No, I don't either. I'm just thinking that the lion's share of activity on Wednesday will be confined to Wednesday evening or Wednesday night. But you're right. One renegade or a couple of renegade storms could pop up in the late afternoon or the late day heat and humidity that will be over us on Wednesday. And then the fireworks will really begin on Thursday when we'll be dealing with, again, the front to our south and the possibility of a wave of low pressure developing and moving along it that'll accentuate or enhance the risk of some heavier rainfall. And in fact, you just brought up, Joe, on the map here, the area that apparently is going to be associated with that potential wave because we could see amounts of in excess of 2 inches stretching, it looks like, across southeastern Pennsylvania, southern Jersey, and north and eastward up into parts of New York City, Long Island, and along the immediate southern New England coastline. So if that does transpire, we'll be looking at quite a bit of rainfall here when we get to Thursday.
WPC is also, showing a max area across Connecticut, Rhode Island, and southern Massachusetts of 2.5 to 3 inches. And as you said earlier, and as we always say here, in the summertime when you're dealing with convection, you always have to alert yourself to the possibility that somebody could wind up with double that amount locally, or even triple, depending on how fast the stuff is moving and how strong the storms are. Also, looking at some heavy precip potential in the southeast, where we have a large area of 2 to 3 inches plus, and in fact, even some 4 and 5 inch amounts being indicated in coastal South and North Carolina, and also in the mountains of western North Carolina. So we're going to keep an eye on that, at least for me. I'd love to see some rain here so I don't have to water. Eastern Nebraska to western Illinois and through Iowa, you've got an area of 1.5 to almost 3 inches being indicated there. 1.5 inch plus amounts across Minnesota. Again, on the east slopes of the Rockies northward, you're looking at areas of 1/2 inch to 1 inch plus from New Mexico all the way up into Montana. So nothing much has really changed. In fact, before we do this, let me just set this map up, and I just want to jump and go to, let's first look at the flash flood potential. So this is WPC's flash flood potential. You get the marginal risk from the Carolinas northwestward through the Ohio Valley, and then they have a slight risk, and this is for tonight, in Minnesota and in eastern South Dakota. So that's playing itself out. Tomorrow, we have a area of slight risk that matches with the severe weather risk in the plains, Nebraska to western South Dakota into Wyoming, and also down in New Mexico. A marginal risk in the southern Appalachians and much of the southeast and in the Gulf states from the Florida Panhandle back to southeast Louisiana. Day 3, so this is Wednesday into Thursday, a marginal risk for New England to the northern mid-Atlantic, west through the Ohio Valley, and then you have a slight risk in Iowa, Illinois, into Indiana, northern Missouri, northeastern Kansas, and eastern Nebraska, and also a slight risk in the eastern half of Colorado, which you don't see too often. It's been I've seen a lot of thunderstorms this year in the eastern half of Colorado. It's been a very interesting uh, setup from that standpoint. The other thing I want to jump to now is the tropics, because we talked about this last night. The Atlantic is quiet, so there's nothing going on there. The Eastern Pacific, we have a system south of the southern coast of Mexico, which is expected to become a tropical depression over the next day or two as it moves west northwestward. But we've got disturbed weather and a tropical storm and a hurricane now in the central Pacific, Mr. Rayo. We have Iona and Kelly right behind it, and then disturbed weather behind that, where there's a 60% chance that this could develop. And all of these three systems are basically tracking one behind the other over similar waters. So we'll start with Iona, which became went from being a tropical depression yesterday when we did the show. Now it's a hurricane, and you can see on the forecast map. I mean, we're talking this thing passing almost 500 miles south of the Hawaiian Island, so it's way to the south. It's at latitude 10.6 north, 151.0 west. Top winds are sustained at 75 miles an hour. They do strengthen it some. They don't make it into a major hurricane, but my experience with these systems that have come through this part of the Pacific Ocean in the last couple of years is that they have been severely under forecasted. And we've had some where they didn't even think it was going to become a hurricane and wind up becoming a Category 5. So I'm not saying that this is going to do the same thing, but don't be shocked if we wind up seeing this strengthen to a major hurricane. It's also, Joe, forecast on Friday to cross the international date line. and go to the other side. And that does happen from time to time, not often, but it does happen from time to time. So this one may wind up doing that. Again, no threat to Hawaii. Now, the next one behind that is Tropical Storm Kelly, which was just upgraded. And this is taking, again, it's basically following in the footsteps. So it's going to be going over upwelled water. So I'm kind of thinking that this probably is going to have some problems as far as strengthening is concerned. There's also probably going to be some shear as a result of its proximity to Iona, and they have it also passing some 400 or 500 miles south of the Big Island of Hawaii and gradually weakening into a tropical depression. And I'm going to bring up. Let me see if I can bring up a satellite picture of this. That would be the tropical Pacific wide shot. So let's do that. And we can see both of them here. So here we go. So here's Iona. You can the structure here does look like a minimal hurricane. And then if you look to the west, east, northeast of it, and I'm going to mark it off in case you can't see it. This is Kelly. So here's Iona. I'll put an I here. This is Kelly. We'll put a K there. I wonder why they went from I to K. What happened to the J? Is there a maybe they don't have J storms? And here's the no, thank you for there you go. Here's the disturbed. Apparently we have some missing frames here. But you can see I'm going to try to stop this loop. Hold on. Uh, let me see if I can stop this. Stop! There you go. All right, now I'll bring the. So there you go. There's Iona, Kelly, and then you have this circulation here that probably doesn't have a whole lot of thunderstorms with it, which is why it's not a tropical depression yet. But it does. There is a low level circulation, so we may actually have three of them out there by this time tomorrow.
And that's pretty, active for, the area around the Central Pacific. And I should also point out, Joe, that the Central Pacific Hurricane Center is actually doubling as the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Honolulu. In other words, more often than not, 99% of the time, that weather office is simply providing weather for the Hawaiian Islands and for Hawaii, Honolulu. But, when they do have, storm activity, tropical activity in the Central Pacific, it also becomes the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. Now, I don't think that the National Hurricane Center in Miami, when it's not, I believe it's always active to one way, shape, or form, but it's not the same weather service office or forecast office for Miami. It's not the same. They're two separate entities. But in Hawaii, in Honolulu, again, when they do have tropical activity, what normally is the forecast office for Honolulu and for the Hawaiian Islands also becomes the Central Pacific Hurricane Center.
Yep. And years ago, the Eastern Pacific had its own hurricane center, which was in San Francisco, but then they gave it all to Miami to do those. But I just brought up the tropical Atlantic. I mean, we do have a couple of waves out in the in the tropical Atlantic, but you can see the clouds are blowing in all different directions. Some of it are getting blown to the north, other clouds are getting blown to the south. There's some shear going on there. Some kind of upper low. Seems to be a little ball of convection here that's well northeast of Puerto Rico and south of Bermuda. There's maybe some sort of mid-level circulation here against, it looks like an upper low of some kind. And then if you look in the Caribbean, you can see where these thunderstorms blow up. How the clouds are all getting blown. You got the lower clouds moving from east to west. The higher clouds are getting blown from west to east. So we have basically unfavorable conditions in much of the tropics, at least right now on the Atlantic side. Brandon Doherty, thank you for hitting the tip jar tonight. It's most appreciated. And as we check out the upper air, We've got a nice trough, an upper low in Labrador that's going to be responsible for bringing down that nice cool push of air. The trough actually strengthens on Friday up in New England, which is good because that at least will hold the drier air in through the weekend. And then there's a secondary trough that swings around on Monday night, but most of that goes way to our north. And as we move through the middle part of next week, some troughing comes into the east later in the week, and upper low winds up dropping into Minnesota and eventually shifts over to the Great Lakes. But the flow out of Canada over time, as we move through the first week of August, gradually disappears. So we'll probably get back to some heat and humidity at some point. And there is something that the European is picking up again. There's something out in the Atlantic, north of the Leeward Islands here, way out in the long range. So I don't even think it's really worth our time to look at that at this stage of the game. So basically, the issue is going to be what happens on Wednesday. There'll be some scattered storms and some isolated severe storms. You're also going to see thunderstorms starting to pick up a bit in the southeast tomorrow, and that includes me, which will be nice. And then again on later on Wednesday, there's an upper trough weak boundary that approaches on Wednesday that triggers off some storms in inland areas on the European. And then you've got the main front trying to push through with a wave developing on it. You can see that low there in Kentucky that runs up into northern Maryland and then kind of hangs around Thursday night into Friday morning. And again, this run of the European seems to show the area of heavy rain a little bit further to the north and west of the coast in inland areas, and then it takes its time moving out. But it looks like we'll start to see improving weather conditions by midday or early afternoon Friday. And the weekend's got this nice big high building in. It looks like the low dew points in the 50s lasts into Monday morning before they start to creep up a little bit. But even on Monday, most of the dew points are in the upper 50s to around 60. I don't think you can complain too much about that.
No, but if we do see dew point temperatures down, let's say in the mid or low 50s, or even as Rich Rockmansky had mentioned at the top of the show on the chat board, dew points in the upper 40s. If we do get back to, let's say, mid or upper 50s, while that's typically still comfortable, quote unquote, you'll notice it. You'll notice the increase in humidity because of the fact that the jump from such a low number or low
Yeah,
figure.
but you're still not going to 70.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you 100% on that. By the way, you had mentioned about you were saying what happened to the J storm for Central Pacific hurricane names, and they unlike the National Hurricane Center for the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico Basin, which uses six rotating list of names, the Central Pacific Hurricane Center uses four rotating lists of traditional Hawaiian names for hurricanes forming in the Central Pacific. That's for the region between 140 and 180 west. 180 west, of course, is the boundary of the international date line. That, unlike the system, we talked about this yesterday, unlike the system in the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific, the names used by the Central Pacific Hurricane Center are used sequentially from a list, regardless of the year, and they do not reset to A each new season. So far we've had, well, we haven't had it this year, but we're on list number one for this year, a Coney, but there's no B, there's no C, and no D named storms. After that was Emma, then Hone, so no F or G storm. Hone, we have, and you just mentioned this, Joe, we have it forming earlier today, Iona, that's the I
Right.
storm.
Whenever the last Central Pacific hurricane was, which was I don't know if it was last year or the year before that or the year before that, uh, they had left off at the what was the one before Iona?
Hone,
Hone.
Hone.
So oh well, yeah, that's familiar. That was that last year or the year before. I remember that one. Hone.
Yeah,
It was either
I'm not
last
sure.
year or the year before. So yeah, they stop and then they just go back. They just start from wherever they left off. You're right. So it's sequential. So now we asked that question last night because we didn't know when the last one was. So now we know.
Yeah, so we have Iona, no J storm, as you pointed out. K storm, we have Kelly, Keli, and after Kelly, there'll be Layla, Lala. So and again, these are, quote, traditional Hawaiian names. So we got Layla, we have Moki, Nolo, Olana, Pena, Ulana, and Wale. Not Wally, but Wale or Wale. And then we go to list two, and then there's a list three, and there's a list four. But again, all of these lists start it regardless of what time of the year the storm, the first storm of the season begins. They just pick up from the previous year, the previous season. So they do not, as we see here in the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico area, we don't start each year with an A. We just pick up from the most recent name from last season or the season before.
You have Briller Jeopardy?
I do.
All right, let's roll through it. And David Fuller hits the tip jar. Thank you, David. Most appreciated.
Okay, let's go to this and push this button here. And here we go. We're going to continue with the average number of 90-degree days from June 1st through August 31st. That means we have 92 possibilities here. And on this Briller Jeopardy tonight, the first city, the number of 90-degree days, June through August. First one is Richmond, Virginia.
The number of 90-degree days in Richmond, Virginia?
Yes, from June through August.
33.
Joe, that's a pretty damn good guess. It's a little bit low, but it still puts you within striking distance of the correct answer.
Well, Frank
And
Scalera says 38. And
Frank said what? 38?
yes. Frank
There you go.
Scalera.
Congratulations, Frank. Let's try another one. Let's try New York State. Let's try Rochester.
Well, we had Buffalo the other day, and that was only 3. So I'm going to say that Rochester's probably a little higher. So I'll say 7.
How do you like them apples, folks?
I love when I do that because then I think I should run out and play a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Let's move on to Texas, and we'll go to San Antone.
I'm trying to remember what we had for Austin. I'll say
Austin. By the way, we had 82.
So I'll say for San Antonio, I'll go 86.
Well, you went a little bit high. It's still a reasonably good guess, but not. It should have been a little lower than that.
All right, Frank Scalera's got 84.
We already have a winner, by the way. We have Mr. Rothmansky, and he got it with 81.
81. It's low, a little lower than Austin is. But that's the way it goes.
Let's go to the Steel City, Pittsburgh.
Ooh. No. I'm going to say 15.
Rochester was 7.
Right. I'll say
Buffalo was 3.
I'll say 15.
Unfortunately, you jumped
Too
a little
high.
bit on the side. Yeah.
Too high. Rich Rothmansky says 10. Michael McGuire says 11. Maggie P says 9.
Maggie, this bell is for you. There you go. You get it with 9. And the fifth city tonight is Yosemite Sam's favorite city because Emma lives there. St. Louis. St. Louis. Emma!
Oh, New York City says 17. St. Louis is in that kind of funny spot. 26.
That's it for St. Louis, 26.
Too low?
If you were the skier, you would have fallen probably off the cliff.
Really? I'm that far off. All right. Well, Adam Lowe has 38. Michael McGuire has 40.
And Michael McGuire, congratulations, 40 for St. Louis. And tonight, Joe, a special night. We have not one but two. Count them. Two mints and one. Two bonus questions tonight. And the first bonus question is, what was the all-time high for International Falls, Minnesota?
Oh, good God. I don't know. Uh, is it a triple digit number?
Yes, it is.
It is. All right. Well, I'll say 102.
Good God, Joe. So close. Snake country with that.
McGuire and Uber at 103, along with Scalera.
Well, the unholy trinity of that you just mentioned.
Right.
Sorry about that, guys. That was it. 103 on
He
July
meant
the
it in the
2nd.
most loving way.
Yeah. July 22nd, 1923, International Falls hit 103 degrees. And the bonus question for the second bonus question tonight, what are the only two states, and there are just two, that have never recorded a temperature over 100 degrees?
Only two states that have never recorded a temperature over 100?
Correct. Now, I'm not sure. Well, so what does that mean? Does that mean that it has to be above 100? Have they had 100-degree temperatures, and it's simply
Well, or that no city in that state has ever gone over 100.
right? So I guess 100 is the limit. But what are the two states that have never seen 101, 102, 103? That kind of.
Oh, okay. So 100 is okay, but 101 is not. So it's not 99. It's 100 is okay. Never gone
That's how
over
I.
100.
That's what I'm interpreting. What are the only two states that have never recorded a temperature over 100 degrees?
All right. Well, I mean, there have been 100-degree readings in Alaska, but I don't know if there's a place that's gotten to 101. I mean, I guess the logical answers to that question um, would be Maine and Alaska, unless you want to make a case for Vermont. But that's always, Vermont's always problematic,
Well,
in my view.
interestingly, we do have winners here. We have winners. Tom Contino said Maine and Alaska. You got Alaska right, Tom, but not Maine.
Not
It's not
Maine.
Maine. But Frank R. David Fuller, Latex Dreams. David Fuller said Hawaii, right? Latex
I
Dreams,
was
Alaska.
wondering about that. I was wondering about Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So those
I
are the
thought
two.
maybe there was like some downslope place on one of the mountains that it would have happened.
Now, before we sign off, I have to answer Ruben Fairchild
Yeah,
because
do it quick because I'm teetering on the edge here.
okay, explain the St. Louis Emma reference. If you're into cartoons, there was one Warner Brothers cartoon where Yosemite Sam was courting. She looked very much like the lady who takes care of Tweety and Sylvester, Granny or whatever.
Granny, yeah.
Apparently she had, and apparently her name was Emma, and apparently Yosemite Sam got wind of the fact that she had a lot of money, and he was courting her, trying to do all sorts of nice things. But every time he tried to do something nice, she would do something back to him, like blow him up with a bomb or shoot him or whatever. And apparently, the next cartoon in the sequence that Warner Brothers made was when Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny were running for mayor in a nondescript town, and he had wired a phone hoping that Bugs would pick it up, and if Bugs picked it up, he'd get blown up. But Bugs came back and said, "That wasn't for me; it was for you, Sam." And she said to make sure to mention St. Louis, and that's when he said, "St. Louis, Emma!" And he runs over to the phone, and of course, since he had already put a bomb in it or something like that, so he picked up the phone. Boom, he got blown up, and he said, "Same old Emma." A lot of laughs, whatever, and you wouldn't really get it unless you knew saw the first cartoon. A lot of times nowadays, when you watch cartoons on cable TV, they don't show them in correct sequence, so you don't really understand. But if you back in the day, Joe, when they showed these cartoons in movie theaters, they probably showed one after the other, and so when the second cartoon, when with Bugs telling Yosemite saying to pick up the phone and gets blown up, that would have gotten a tremendous laugh because people remember what it was in the first. Anyway, that's the reason why, Ruben Fairchild.
So the reason why we were a late start tonight was because, and Jolene on the chat board, Jolene Cross, who is now a new subscriber. Thank you, Jolene, and welcome. She just listened to me because I was on the Phil Giacino podcast, and you can if you're on Altice, I forgot what channel it is. He did mention it, but now I forget what it was. But if you're on Altice in on Long Island or by you, Joe, in the Hudson Valley, uh,
Yes.
they air podcasts on one of their channels, and one of them is the Phil Giacino podcast. So I think it will be on there on Thursday. So as soon as I get a link from Phil for where he is on, where our show is tonight, I don't know if it was on YouTube or not, but as soon as I get the link, I will post it up on my Facebook pages. I'll also post it in the community section of my YouTube channel. So look for that. Okay, so she just told me it's on Facebook. So let me see if I can just really quickly see if the link is there. And it is. So you know what? I'm going to put the link up now. If I can, there's a copy link. So if you want to go ahead and listen to the Phil Giacino podcast, and I was on for a whole hour. I said some very controversial things. So here we go. So here it is. So there's the link to it on Facebook, and enjoy. And again, it's also on Altice on Thursday, so you can watch it there too if you don't want to watch it on Facebook or you're not on Facebook. So say goodnight, Joe.
Good night, Joe.
And good night to everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. We'll be at our regular time tomorrow, 7:35. I'm going to bed. Bye bye.